Hello and welcome to the Indie Bandits podcast episode 1 Plus. I'm Joe, and in a second I'll be joined by Jimmy and Archie, and in this bonus episode we're going to be chatting about the news that caught our attention this month. Since the Switch now has like rewind and save states on their like Super Nintendo Classic stuff and NES Classic stuff, people are using those, and then people are getting upset about people saying they've completed the game because they use these save states or rewind features.
I think this comes into the we spoke about a while back, but I don't care how someone else experiences a game. It's a very individual, most of the time, a very individual experience. So however someone chooses to experience a game is entirely up to them. And if they complete the game using cheat codes, or if they complete the game using a feature that wasn't in it before, like the rewind or save, and they enjoy it, then what difference does it make to me? It makes absolutely none whatsoever. So I don't care. If you're getting upset about how someone else plays a game that's an individual single-player game and you've never met this person before and you've played the game a separate way, then why do you get upset about that? That's what I would like to know.
I don't want to know why they do that. They can keep that to themselves.
Yeah.
But what if I say I've completed a game and you also say you've completed it, and then someone else has done it seemingly on what is a harder difficulty setting without by using these save states and these rewind features.
Yeah, but why does that matter though? That's what I don't get. This is where I completely lose it. I just don't care why that makes any difference. Your experience with the game has no impact on my experience with the game, so I don't care. If that's the argument someone's making, then they're for some reason in competition with the entire gaming world on who can complete games better, and I just do not get why you would want that.
Yeah. No, I don't think you can say fairer than that.
The other side's just such a boring argument, though, as well.
It's a needlessly aggressive argument as well. Why are you being confrontational about someone else's experience of a game that you've also experienced and have either enjoyed or not enjoyed? And why does your enjoyment of that game come down to how somebody else experiences the game?
Yeah.
You'd also assume that if they have completed it and it's a game that's seemingly quite difficult, then they've liked it at least enough to put in all that effort to complete it. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm definitely not going to complete a Hard as Nails game if I don't like it.
Yeah. I'm not going to complete any game if I don't like it. I mean, I don't think it's something I would use personally, unless there was a reason to why I wanted to get the end. But if I'm using something that's kind of a outside feature from the way the developers actually intended it. But it's just my preference. It's not something I would personally go out and use to, complete the game, I don't think. But if other people want to do it, then I don't really care.
Yeah, exactly. If there'd been a game that was, I just wasn't particularly good at it, but the story in the game itself was so enjoyable, and there was a way for me to complete the game because I wanted to, that used features that somebody else, basically like in easy mode instead of someone doing it on hard mode, then I don't understand why anyone would care if I did that.
Yeah.
I know in the worst case scenario nowadays, you're just going to look up footage of someone having completed it if that's not available. If you want to see the end of a game and can't be arsed playing all the way through it, or it's not even can't be arsed. I think a lot of players act like other players don't want to complete games or need to get good or whatever.
But people have got other things going on in their life as well. Games are especially in AAA, they're exceptionally long these days. So if there's something that can alleviate that length, that I guess you're not paying additional costs for, then go for it. Cool.
But then it just comes down to what we've just said.
If you want to do it, why not?
Someone tells me how they played a game. Why do I care? I didn't play it that way, and I don't care the way anyone else wants to play it.
When my mom plays the original Crash Bandicoot, there's this one place in she always uses that super password that came with it, which just unlocked all the levels and give you all the gems and the crystals and everything. And there's one part of the game where you can go and get 32 lives straight away, and she would always just play the game like that. She never wanted to go from start to finish. She just wanted to play the level she liked.
The original games would just completely reset if you turned off the console.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, before memory cards and all that.
Yeah, before memory cards. I mean, some of them had like save features built into the cartridge, but the Mega Drive and Genesis that I had, there were so many games on that I would sometimes I'd leave on when I'd go to school because I didn't want to have to just turn it off because I'd start playing it after I'd gotten ready for school. So what, should I just turn the console off or leave it running all day whilst I'm at school and then go get back from school, unpause it and crack on? Instead of doing that, I can just make a save state now, leave the game, come back a day later, a week later, a month later, whatever, and then go, right, I'll just pick up where I left off because the old game didn't have the memory to do it. Generally, I don't do that because I don't want to like cheat myself out of the challenge of completing the game. But if someone else does, I couldn't give two shits.
Yeah. I think as well, like save features added to games enhance the user experience. I don't think it was I'm pretty sure most people who've played games over the last 20 years would be pretty pleased that you can save games. I don't think anyone's like, why did they put this feature in? I wish I had to sit here all day playing this game to complete it, because if I didn't, then it would reset. I wish that was still the case. Like, that's a terrible user experience.
I'd be more curious to find out why people are bothered about this. What defense are they putting up and for what reason? It's like, yeah.
You'd be opening up a can of worms there. I think as well, it would just be one of those endless arguments where I think a lot of it is being annoyed about it for the sake of being annoyed about it.
Yeah.
I can't think of a robust argument, but someone out there I'm sure can prove me wrong.
If there's a civil discussion to be had about this and someone can provide us with some answers, I'd be interested to read them.
Yeah.
Might enlighten us a bit, maybe.
We hope you're enjoying our podcast so far. If you are, don't forget to subscribe. Next, we're discussing the news that indie developers on itch were given takedown notices by the people behind Choose Your Own Adventures, and the indie dev who got ahead of piracy by putting his game on the Pirate Bay.
The biggest surprise for me on this one was just that they could trademark that. That was the biggest shock for me, is that they actually have the ability to tell people to stop using the phrase choose your own adventure. I feel like that's been around for decades.
I think the Choose Your Own Adventure was a series of books, like Bumps or stuff like that. So I'm thinking maybe, but then again, I don't see how there's any confusion in it. I feel the end user, the consumer, is smart enough to go, yeah, by Choose Your Own Adventure, they don't mean it's an official Choose Your Own Adventure product. They just mean it's
that you can choose your own adventure.
I never knew it was kind of like a brand. I always just thought it was, well, just a choose your own adventure kind of thing. There's a genre of books.
Yeah, I don't think anyone in the world has ever gotten confused. I think they just think choose your own adventure is a type of a thing to do rather than a brand.
Mm-hmm. So for all these games that have been taken down, then what's happening to them? Are they just getting rebranded as something else?
I think they just have to. I think what they have to do is they have to take them down, then put them back up without the usage of the Choose Your Own Adventure.
What do they call it? Like Adventure You Can Choose, or something stupid like that. Like
maybe you can put like it's an adventure you control. Control your own adventure. And they're like, there you go.
Right, that would be it.
Or just a flipping role-playing game. I feel we already had this word. I mean, I know it's not exactly the same, but the idea of branching... Maybe it's branching narrative is the terminology they will probably...
It's an RPG where you control your adventure.
Oh, well, as long as those games go back up.
I know it seems like with them being indie devs, like, are they really hurting your brand that much if like a lot of, like, single developer games... using this terminology, are they really hurting the Choose Your Own Adventure book brand?
Is the brand even strong enough to be harmed by it? I don't think it is.
Does anyone even use Choose Your Own Adventure anymore?
Not that I want to crap on the Choose Your Own Adventure brand, of course, but I just don't think it's strong enough a brand anyway.
No.
Oh well, hopefully those games go back up and those indie devs can start like making some money. We'll get the games out there.
Oh well, we'll move on to the next story because it's sort of linked in like the opposite way. I don't know if you saw. I put the link up, but the Gaiju went and just went, fuck it. I'm putting my game on the Pirate Bay. It's not even like a schemy version of it, which I know devs have done in the past. Where who was it? I think Game Dev Tycoon did it, where they actually had a pirated version of their game going around, in which if you played this version of Game Dev Tycoon, randomly your game in Game Dev Tycoon would fail due to piracy, which was a nice way to, like, you know, a big middle finger to everyone who pirated the game.
Right.
And all these users were like, I just can't get past this part in the game, in Game Dev Tycoon, where I've released this game and they just keep saying your game's not working anymore, the sales are dropping because everyone's pirating it. And, you know, it was a nice mirror up to the pirates. But this guy actually just put the full version of the game, DRM free and all this nonsense, onto the Pirate Bay, and was like, people are going to pirate it anyway, so here's the flipping full version. And one step ahead he is, if you think it's good, please go buy the actual version. And he saw an upturn in sales.
But like, it's weird. You give people that option and they do. So it's kind of a cool idea, and it's a good marketing technique as well, isn't it? I mean, I'm sure he didn't do it purely for the marketing, but it's made a story, so there's probably a lot more people aware of the game now, and it's not a bad idea.
So if you want a game for free, it's called Danger Gazers, and it's a post-apocalyptic roguelite top-down shooter, and it's available free on the Pirate Bay.
But if you enjoy it, give the guy some money, because it's a dick move if you don't.
Yeah, exactly. No, I thought that was cool. It's kind of like, it's rare that you actually have nice news stories.
When are news stories ever nice in games? Is there too much of an outrage culture in games?
Yes.
But even like the big news sites and all that, do you think they just like, not so much prey on it, but kind of use it too much rather than maybe like talk about why games are fun?
I feel like it's the equivalent of the papers putting their sort of like outrageous headlines to sell newspapers. The gaming industry does the same thing. Mm-hmm. They love a bit of controversy.
They all have this very tabloid style to them.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I don't use them anymore.
No, there's very little equivalent to, like, I don't know, just reasonable discourse.
Not that everything should be like nicey nice all the time. Obviously, when there's a bit of like dodgy, like, you know, people being overworked and underpaid and all that, that's good to bring that to attention sometimes. But
yeah, but using outrage and controversy to sell,
exactly. Yeah.
It's a little bit on the nose for me. I think it's a little bit cheap. It's a little bit lowest common denominator, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's a cheap tactic to get more clicks, more traffic, and sell more ad space.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's doing anything for the gaming community, which is the whole point of these sites, wasn't it? I mean, unless I'm being a bit harsh.
I don't know.
You'd think so. Maybe to be a massive cynic, maybe the point of these sites is to just make money.
I don't begrudge them selling the space for ads or making money off what they're doing. I just think there's ways of going about it legitimately and ways of going about it where it just feels a bit cheap and nasty.
Yeah.
Yeah. And where your profit shouldn't be the only reason you're doing what you're doing. I'd like to see more businesses where people rake in loads of money doing something they love.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people love this, but I think I think the lowest common denominator is just the easiest way to go about actually like staying in business for a lot of these places.
That just their business model's wrong. Then they've got to look to change that. I think it's a cheap way of stubbornly sticking to the business model.
It happens at game studios as well, doesn't it? You have management pulling one way because this makes the most money, and you have the people who actually are making games and who love them, and they'll probably do their utmost to pull in the opposite direction to, you know, make what they genuinely believe is a good game and doesn't have predatory pricing practices and all this nonsense. But they're always going to be at odds with each other. I feel that it's very hard for them to pull in the same direction because one is profit maximization and the other is making something that might be critically better, but not as financially viable or not as profitable. And I think the same happens in the games media as well. I imagine that, you know, at the top of the publishing hierarchy, there are people who are like, this type of article gets the most links, clicks, and, you know, appears at the top of search engine results. So churn out these kind of articles. And there's probably a lot of people in the games media who are like, I just want to write about this game I really like. Yeah. I don't want to just spurn on this outrage.
I think that's why NoClip has been so successful, though.
I flippin' love NoClip.
It doesn't shy away from showing maybe some of the hardships of working in games and all that, but it's definitely more of a positive, I guess, outlook on the industry and celebrating the good things about it. Why they're fun, why we still like them, what's it making these things, you know. I think they're definitely the best in terms of like game journalism out there. Even though it's not like traditional journalism, it's more just like documentaries and. Yeah,
but you can tell they flippin' love their games, and everyone they talk to also flippin' loves their games. This is the thing. It feels like everyone they interview and everyone they've done a project on really loves games. Even like the top level of management, their interviews never seem that it's like corporate jargon or spiel or anything like that. It's everyone going, this is what we want to do, and this is the world we do it in, so here's how we work around all that and still make things we love. Thanks for listening to the bonus episode of the Indie Bandits podcast. If you liked it, you can subscribe wherever you usually get your podcasts from. Don't forget you can also find us on Twitter at Indie Bandits and like our Facebook page. Next month we'll be back and we'll be discussing the games nominated for the grand prize at the Independent Games Festival that takes place at this year's GDC. See you then!